In today's video I'm going to give you guys an update on all of my tanks. The big one, everything that's on the shelf, including the saltwater tank, the shallow tank, the paludarium, everything that you guys haven't seen in a while basically. But this could also be the last time you guys see all these tanks in this room. We're going to talk all about it. Let's get started. So let's get the elephant out of the room first. I've been making YouTube videos for 3 years now, more than 3 years actually. If you go back to videos from 2019 or 2020, you'll see that the shelf has always been here, the table has always been here. Over time I've just added more tanks. But this room is also our living room. So next to the 90p we have our couch, the shallow tank is sitting on the dinner table. The dinner table is also kind of my office. So it's just a 1-bedroom apartment. So this is the living room, kitchen is over there, and upstairs we have our bedroom. So I don't really have a separate space where I can do my setups and make my videos, you know? So for example, if I'm getting ready to make a video, I first have to kind of clean up the house a little bit, remove all the cat toys from the floor, make sure the house looks tidy. Then I can set up all my camera gear, then I can start filming, and after I'm done filming I have to clean everything up again. It's no big deal, it's been working fine like that for the past 3.5 years. But lately I've just been dreaming about having my own separate space to do all that, you know? Kind of like a separate studio. Not like Mr. MD Fish Tanks, that place is insane. It would be amazing, but I just wouldn't be able to afford anything like that, not in this area where we live. But I think the best thing for us is just to move to a bigger apartment with multiple bedrooms, so I can transform 1 bedroom into like a little aquascaping studio. I think that'll be a good move. We've already actually been looking at some places, and I'm waiting for a reply from one that we really like, hoping to hear next week if we get it or not. And if we do get it, like things could happen pretty fast, you know, and I'm not sure if I will be able to actually make another video in this place right now. So nothing is really certain yet, but I'm pretty sure that things will start changing soon. But that's enough of that, let's get on with the room tour. Okay, let's start with this one first. This is the UNS 90B shallow tank, inspired by the Green Machine, inspired, almost like copied. It's called Crimson Sky. It's a 120 shallow tank, absolutely amazing. And I think everybody kind of knows the Green Machine. So I kind of just want to copy one of their tanks. I think it worked out pretty well. It's a little bit different. I used some different plants, and I mean the equipment is not exactly the same either. But in general, it's a good replica, I would say. So let's talk a little bit about the equipment. So the tank is a UNS 90B. So it's 90 centimeters from left to right, it's 25 centimeters tall, and it's 20 centimeters front to back. Then the light is from Skylight. This is the Hyperbar. I think this is the biggest version that they do, 75 centimeters. I'm also using an external canister filter on this tank. It's a JBL E902, but I've actually changed the impeller to a slightly smaller one, so the flow is not as crazy, but I still have quite a big filtration capacity, you know. Using CO2 as well, and I think that's pretty much it. So the hardscape is dragon wood. Kind of looks like dragonstone, but then the wood version. I've used a few small rocks as well. And then plants, very simple. I use dwarf hairgrass in the foreground with a little bit of the rotala bonsai. In the background we have Altananthera rhynicia mini. On top of the wood I have Hydrocotyl tripartita, and submerged I have the Hemianthus calitricoides cuba. And there's a few Bucephalandra in there as well, but I think that's it mostly. So I've set this one up in the beginning of October. So October, November, December, January. We're now in the middle of February, so let's say 4.5 months. I think this tank is looking good. I don't think it will change a whole lot anymore. So probably I will change this one up soon. I mean, I might have to take it down for the move, and then it's a good time to rescape it. Because I want to do a river style aquascape in here. I really like the shape of this tank. I think a river style aquascape would look pretty cool. Like large boulders, lots of smaller gravel and stuff like that, and then grassy plants with quite a strong flow, maybe some small goby, stuff like that. I think that will be pretty cool. Okay, so that was the shallow bookshelf tank. Now let's move on to the shelf. To avoid all the questions about where I got the shelf, I will leave a link in the video description, if it's still available at least, because I bought it 5 years ago. I think it should still be for sale, but then again, this store where I bought it, it's just a Dutch furniture store. They don't really ship outside of the Netherlands, so if you want to get it but you're not in the Netherlands, it might be a little bit tricky. Okay, let's start with this one first. This is actually the smallest tank on the shelf. It's only a 30 centimeter cube, and it doesn't look the best right now because I've recently made some changes to the layout. I'll overlay a clip from how it was looking before the changes. and it was still looking good, but it didn't really have a lot of contrast. It was just a very green tank, you know. So I decided to replace the foreground with sand, and I've also added some red stems in the background, but kind of still need to grow in. So this tank needs a little bit more time to look good again. But this one is home to my alien BETTA. I've actually named him Mr. Alien, very creative. He's doing good. I've had him for almost 2 years now. He's still healthy, still active, still grumpy as always. And besides the BETTA, I have my usual stocking, Olesinclus, cherry shrimp, Cleton snails, that kind of stuff. Setup wise, it's a 30 centimeter cube, so 30 centimeters all around. I have the Skylight Hyperbar again, this is just a smaller version. I'm using a small external canister filter, I'm using CO2, and I'm using a heater because BETTAs like it warm. Yeah, I think that's it for this tank, just needs a little bit more time. Okay, then let's talk about this one. This one is quite a special tank. It's one of my most recent builds. This is a very special shrimp tank. In here we have some really rare shrimp, the Sulawesi Caridina denerli, if I pronounced that correctly. Quite rare. At the moment still quite shy as well. I don't really see them that often. I know they're still in here because they do sometimes make an appearance. But yeah, as you can see, there's just not really a lot going on in this tank besides the layout itself. So I'm thinking of adding some fish in here. I'm just not really sure yet what type of fish. I was thinking CHIHIROS, but I know CHIHIROS like soft water, and the water in this tank is quite hard. Also the rocks release calcium, so the TDS is slowly creeping up after the water change, you know. So it needs to be a nano fish that likes hard water. So if you guys have any suggestions, then let me know in the comments. But yeah, I really like this setup. I love the bamboo. I love the plants in here as well. It's quite a wild, almost like jungle style layout. And yeah, just really enjoying this tank. Setup wise, it's a 35 centimeter cube, so it's a little bit bigger than the one on top. This one holds roughly 40 liters or 10 US gallons. Then for the light, I'm using a CHIHIROS A2 series. I'm using a hang on the back filter, a small heater, and CO2 as well. That's it. Then the third tank on the shelf is a little blackwater setup, and in here I have a pair of licorice gourami. I'm actually not sure if it's a pair, it's just 2 of them. And I also have a group of small rasboras. It's not the chili rasboras, but it's a different type. I'll put the name on the screen. So a little blackwater setup, very contrasting to the bamboo tank that I just showed you. That one was clear water, that one was hard water. This one is black water, and it's also very soft. So in this tank I'm actually just using pure RO water without any minerals added to it. So the TDS is now 47, so it's very soft. That's exactly what these fish prefer. So it's actually quite a low maintenance setup as well. I mean, the plants, the green ones that you see here in front, that's Nymphoides Taiwan. That one is quite fast growing, but everything else just grows very slowly. So occasionally I just add a few alder cones to keep the tannins. But besides that, I don't really have to do much to this tank. Then setup wise, it's again a 35 centimeter cube, so roughly 40 liters. The light is from Twinstar, this is the E series. And I'm using a hang on the back filter and CO2, that's it. Okay, then tank number 4 on the shelf. This is actually a brand new setup that I haven't showed on the channel yet. So this one is a build video that's coming soon. This is actually a Dutch style tank, so no hardscape, just plants. And I've basically used only red plants. You can't really see that yet because it's still brand new. Some of the plants still need to transition to their red color. And I think I also need a little bit more light. I'm currently using the CHIHIROS A2 series, which is quite powerful, but I don't think it will be enough to get all these plants like the super red color that I'm after, you know. So I'm going to upgrade the light to a CHIHIROS WRGB2 Pro. It's coming soon. So yeah, this is just a new setup yet. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because there will be a build video in a few weeks. Okay, then the last tank on the shelf, my little saltwater cube. Where should we start with this one? It's been up and running since April last year, so I would say 10 months old now. And this was my first ever reef tank, the first time keeping corals. So I've purposely only chosen easy corals. So I think every single coral in here is a soft coral. Not exactly sure, but soft corals are kind of the easiest corals that you can keep. And because of that, this tank is actually quite easy as well. Like, it's quite easy to maintain. Like, I kind of started saltwater thinking it was very difficult, but yeah, so far this tank seems to be very easy. I mean, in terms of maintenance, I'm doing a water change once per week or once in 2 weeks, scraping the glass, kind of changing the white filter floss in the filtration compartment, and that's it. I always make 15 liters of RO water, then I add in the required salt and mix it up, do a water change, and that's it. So So it's actually very low maintenance. Of course, the corals don't grow very fast, so you don't really have to trim them like plants. I also don't really test anything. I don't really dose anything. The only thing I'm doing is feeding the fish. So I have a small blue damsel in here. He's always hiding behind the rockwork. I have some snails, I have some hermit crabs, and there's a small urchin in here as well. So those are the only inhabitants basically. And in terms of the equipment, it's actually quite simple as well. So the tank is again a 35 centimeter cube, so just like all the other tanks on the shelf. So it holds roughly 40 liters, but this one also has a filtration compartment in the back. So if you don't count the filtration compartment, it's a little bit smaller. Then the light is again from Skylight, again the Hyperbar, but this is the REEF version. So again, controllable via the app, just super easy to work with. You can create schedules and sunrise and sunset, stuff like that. Then the other equipment, of course, we have a heater in the filtration compartment. I have a return pump in the filtration compartment. I've actually upgraded the return pump. So the stock pump that came with this setup was just simple, standard, and I couldn't really change anything. So I've upgraded to a Aqualumination Axis. And with that one, you can control it via an app and change the flow, change the intensity. So I was also using a Wavemaker in this tank, but now because I can also increase the flow with the return pump, I don't need the Wavemaker anymore. So tank, light, heater, return pump, and the fifth piece of equipment is a little auto top off. So with salt water, of course you also get evaporation, but the salt stays in the tank. So the salt levels can fluctuate. That's kind of what you want to avoid with salt water. So to avoid that, I have a little auto top off. So in here is a sensor. If I lift up the sensor, it starts filling the tank up. And the reservoir for the RO water is actually on this side, underneath the shelf basically. So I'm really enjoying this little reef tank. It's a lot easier than I expected. So if there's anybody watching right now that's thinking of starting a saltwater tank but is kind of intimidated by it, I would say just go for it. Just choose your corals wisely, start with the easy stuff first, and then you can really have an easy setup as well. I just have one issue with this tank at the moment, and that is I feel like something is eating my corals, but I'm not really sure what it is. So I'm hoping that there's some saltwater experts watching this video as well. Maybe they can tell me what the issue is. But yeah, something is eating some of my corals, especially the clove polyps. I'll get some closer, but the clove polyps and the jasmine polyps. Sometimes I can see that, yeah, some of the leaves, I don't know what else to call it, some of the leaves are like missing. But that's the only issue that I have at the moment. Hopefully I can figure it out and stop it from happening. But what I do really love about this tank is the green star polyps. So that is the coral that is currently covering the background of the tank. And it's growing quite fast, so hopefully within a few months the entire background is covered with those green star polyps. I would absolutely love that. Okay, so that was everything on the shelf, so let's move on to the big one. So the big one is an Oasis SCAPERLINE 90. So the tank itself is measuring 90 centimeters from left to right, 45 centimeters tall, and also 45 centimeters front to back. And this is the second layout in this tank, and I've kind of built a layout around the cichlids in here. So we have a group of 6 African butterfly cichlids, and yeah, kind of just wanted to build an Africa themed layout. So most of the plants are from Africa, not all of them, but we'll get to the plants later. I've kind of just fallen in love with these cichlids. I mean, they're really easy to keep, and how do I say this nicely? They also really like to make babies. So quite often they lay eggs and they have babies for a few weeks. But the babies never really survive because there's just too many predators in this tank. They're also not very good parents. I mean, usually when they have babies, like, they'll protect them, but as soon as I feed the tank, like, they completely forget about the babies and they're just too focused on themselves eating, you know? So then there's always some predators that kind of notice that the babies are not being guarded. So then they snoop in and have a little feast on the babies, which is quite painful to watch, but it's just nature. I'm kind of just letting nature run its course, you know? So the babies never really grow up. Yeah, Africa themed tank, so most of the plants are from Africa. We have some Bulbitis and some Anubias on the wood. Lots of Anubias on the rocks as well. And then in the background I've used different bulbs, so mostly Aponogeton, some red lotus and some green lotus. I think that's it. And the Madagascar lace plant on the sides. I do have to confess that I've recently also added some crypts, so the plants are not entirely all from Africa anymore. I just had some crypts left over from a different project, couldn't get myself to throw them away, so I just planted a few crypts here and there as well. Yeah, tank is looking good. I'm really enjoying this one. Again, quite easy to maintain because The only fast growing plants in here are the bulbs in the background, and it's just really easy to trim them, you know. And then in terms of the stocking, we have the African butterfly cichlids. I have the blue-eyed Congo tetras, which lately are a little bit more shy. I'm not sure what happened there. They used to be all over the tank, but now they're mostly staying in the center between the two pieces of wood. They just became a little bit more skittish. Not sure what happened there. Maybe it's because I've trimmed the background or something. And besides the blue-eyed Congo tetras, we also have the African banded barb. So those are like the small reddish fish that you see. Yeah, setup-wise, like I said, SCAPERLINE. Light is again from Skylight. This is the Hyperspot version 2, the FM I believe it's called. In here I have the Oase Biomaster 850 with inline CO2, and that's it. So I really enjoy this tank at the moment. Plan to keep this one going for a long time, so if we do move, I'll probably just catch all the fish, drain the water completely, and then we should be able to carry it to its new location. Okay, this is tank number 8, I think. Yeah, we had the shallow tank. We have 5 tanks on the shelf. We have the bigger one. This is tank number 8. And then we still have 2 more to go. So this tank over here, I've actually just released a build video from this one 2 weeks ago. So we're not going to spend too much time on this tank. You guys have probably seen it recently. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link on top of the screen. But this tank kind of represents what I love about aquascaping. So it's a nano tank. It has a very simple hardscape. It has a hardscape in a triangular shape, so triangle like this, and it has a lot of colorful plants. So it's a 45 centimeter tank, optic wide. We have a Twinstar Light. This is the Twinstar E series. I'm using CO2 on it. I'm actually using one of those citric acid and baking soda systems. I'm using an external canister filter. I'm using a heater, and that's it. In terms of the inhabitants, we have ruby tetras. We have threadfin rainbows, some odosinclas, some orange neocaridina shrimp, and I used to have a BETTA in here as well, but unfortunately BETTA passed away. It's kind of sad. He already had a big lump on his dorsal fin, and I think that's kind of what ended him, I guess. Not sure what happened, but yeah, BETTA is no longer with us. Kind of sad, but unfortunately that's part of fish keeping as well. Well, at the moment I am kind of struggling with some algae in this tank. So in amongst the carpet there's quite some hair algae. I think that's because the light is quite powerful. I actually just need to dim it a little bit. Let me just do that right now. Just a little bit. Because I'm dosing enough CO2. The light is only on for 8 hours, so I'm not sure what else could be causing the hair algae. So I think the light is just a little bit too powerful. Okay, then the last 2 tanks. So on this side of the room I've recently made some changes that you guys actually haven't seen yet, because I used to have 2 of these Oase Styline next to each other, but I've recently changed it up for a UNS 60U. Actually, let's leave that one till last. Let's talk about this one first. So this tank over here is actually the longest running setup in the room right now. I just checked, and this one was made on August of last year, so it's been up and running for a while. But since the build video, I haven't really shown it to you guys anymore. Not sure why. I don't think I've done a room tour video since then either, so there wasn't really an opportunity to show it to you guys again. But it's still here, it's still doing good, and it's a very low maintenance setup as well. So this is, I mean, I call it a polydarium. Some people said it's more like a riparium, but I'm not entirely sure what the difference is. It's just a tank with a water feature and a terrestrial part on top of that. And this was the first time I created something like this, but it was actually quite easy because the entire background is just one big piece of cork, and I've just attached smaller piece of cork to it, just kind of create a 3D effect. Then I just planted it with some really easy terrestrial plants like ferns, some ficus and some moss. And that has been super low maintenance. I mean, some of the creeping plants, the creeping ferns, they're growing quite fast, so sometimes I do need to take some out. But the ferns grow very slowly, the ficus grow very slowly. I also don't really do much in terms of fertilizer. I mean, I don't spray the plants. I just keep the tank covered so the humidity stays inside. And I guess the waste from the fish provide enough nutrients for all the plants that's submerged and immersed. Now the underwater part has changed a little bit because originally this was a bit of an Africa themed tank. So I had a pair of crebensis and I had some other African ditterfish. But the crebensis, they didn't live very long. Not really sure what happened to them, but they had some sort of disease, I think, because some of their fins just kind of started disappearing or like rotting away, you know. So they didn't live very long. It's kind of sad. So I've now changed it to a bit of a South American team, I guess. We have a large group of the green neon tetras. There's some Apistogramma in here. Currently the stocking is very much just a mix of everything. This tank kind of just became a tank where you put fish where you don't really know where else to put them. I was planning to put some of these fish in the tank next to it, but that one hasn't really finished cycling just yet, so currently this tank is just a little bit overstocked, but it's fine. There's a big filter on there. I'm using an Oase Filto Smart 300 Thermo, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's just something different compared to all the normal tanks in the room, you know. Okay, then tank number 10, and also the last tank of this room tour. This one is brand new. Like I said, I originally had two of these Oase style lines next to each other, but I kind of realized that I just prefer rimless tanks, so I got rid of that one and replaced it with the UNS 60U. And the plan for this tank is to have a layout with just cryptochlorines. I saw this last year when I was at Horizon Aquatics, UK aquascaping store. They had an amazing display tank with just crypts. I have some footage, I'll overlay it. And ever since seeing that tank, I always kind of had this idea to create something like that as well. And I think this tank just kind of, yeah, lent itself really well for that. But like I said, it's still a work in progress because I've just used crypts, and we all know crypts like to melt. And I think about 50% of the crypts in here have melted, so that caused a lot of waste as well. So this tank is still kind of balancing itself. It's only been 2 weeks maybe, so this one is still a work in progress. You guys will see the full build video hopefully in a few weeks from now. Alright guys, that is the last room tour completed. Now this will not be the last time you guys will see this room because we still have some content coming up. We still have the build video for the Dutch style tank. We still have the build video for the 60U, and in those videos you guys will still see this room as well. Oh, and we have the 1 year update on the reef tank. In that video I will of course also show this room. So it's not entirely the last time you guys will see this room, but there's just going to be some changes. Fingers crossed we'll be able to find a new place soon. I'm excited for starting a new aquascaping studio that's not a living room. Guys, let me know in the comments which tank that I currently have is your favorite. I think my favorite is still the shallow, the 90B, the bookshelf tank. Yeah, let me know which one is yours. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.